That's the doorbell at Jimmy's house. Now, when you come to my house, my doorbell sounds like this.
Hey, welcome to People's Radio United weekly show. I'm Tim Best Buds. I'm here with Canadian Glen, Top 100, and St. Louis Gale. How are you guys doing?
Good day, good day.
Mustn't grumble.
I'm still here.
Everyone's so optimistic.
Everything's fine in America.
Yeah. Let's run through what everybody's doing real quick, and then we'll get started with the issues, if that's okay with everybody.
Certainly.
Okay. Why don't you start, Glenn? I know you have something big going on.
My next regular show on Wednesday, June 21st, will be a big show. I'm not really sure how my cat herding skills are for how the studio is going to go, but it's a show about CFAA and Aaron's Law. And I will have Ray Johansson on to talk about Lori Love's situation. I will have Leanne DeHart on to talk about Matt DeHart's situation. Have a guy named Nathan Dimoff on, who is under persecution in Florida. Going to have Stanley Cohen on to talk about his experience with PayPal 14 and Payback 13 and how he views CFAA prosecution to be extreme. And then I also have on the lawyer for Free Anons, Nancy Novelli, and she's going to talk about Jeremy Hammond's case and also a case against a guy named Adam Naffa in California. So it's going to be quite a full table for the panel for this show. But Aaron's Law will be reintroduced in the U.S. Senate in this session for the fourth attempt to try and get it through. So we want to highlight that, talk about it.
Yeah, really.
So
what's going on with you and Top Gear Live? Top?
We don't have much after that, Top. How are we going to beat that?
I'm going to sing. How's that?
That's the best we can get.
Hey, this is your time to promote anything you want that you're working on.
At the moment, we're just we're all political at the moment. Party politics in the UK. We're going to be discussing here this evening the fucking tragedy that is the Grenfell Tower massacre. That's a corporate massacre. A corporate attack on the United Kingdom. We will be discussing that on Sunday, and we're going to be playing it by ear. We haven't got no such thing as planning.
Yeah, well then I guess you're one step behind here because we hardly plan either. We're kind of we started like kind of like a bastardized version of Top Gear Live, right? And then we actually got Top Gear Live to join this bastardized version. So now we're kind of, it legitimized us, I guess.
We've morphed.
Yeah. Gail, what's up? What are you doing? What do you want to talk about real quick?
I just teach and answer questions and do what people ask me to do.
Okay. Yeah, People's Radio, not much going on. I know we have more guests coming to the I Fought the Law.info show. I think it's starting sometime maybe just before or just after the beginning of August. Steve Shagwell's traveling right now, so I don't have all the details. He'll be on in a week or two. And then this show next week on Friday, same time, we'll be talking about a whole bunch of Native issues. It'll be Native genocide, what's going on with the DAPL right now. It'll pretty much be a show dedicated to Native issues, so just that's coming up too. So Yeah, I guess we can get started unless anyone else has anything they want to bring up before. Nope.
No.
Okay. Well, yeah, I guess we're going to start off talking about all these mass shootings going on, and starting with the one in Virginia that caused all the ruckus because it doesn't matter if regular people get killed, but when a Congress or a politician gets killed, then it's us all of a sudden, right?
Right. And there's no other way to really go about it. We are, as of today, 200 mass shootings have occurred in the United States. And I think we're on day 167 of the year.
Insane.
So that's more than one a day. And for those that don't know, a mass shooting is legally defined as 4 or more people shot. We do tend to hear more about those that have higher fatality rates. But, of course, it is in the news again this week because on Wednesday, a man from the St. Louis area went to Virginia and shot up the baseball practice of the GOP. They had a baseball game Thursday night. They were doing practice, and the only congressman that was hit was Congressman, because he's the majority whip for the Republicans, Scalise, who is still in the hospital.
Just so you know who you're feeling sorry for, he may or may not have been a white supremacist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
You know what may or may not means when a politician says that? It means, hell yeah, I was a white supremacist, but I don't want to publicize it.
Yes. And then there were 2 Secret Service or congressional policemen who were shot, and an aide. So those were the 4, and then the man was then killed by the police. So that wasn't the only one that day. About an hour and a half later, 4 people were shot in San Francisco at a UPS facility by a disgruntled worker, who then killed himself. So that was just 2 on Wednesday. Actually, there were 3 on Wednesday. There was one in Canton, Ohio, where 4 people were shot. None died. That's America. We don't hear about all of them, and I kind of understand. I mean, I do understand that as somebody who has researched this academically. One of the biggest problems is the fact that the media portrays these and glamorizes these shootings, which then causes copycats. That is a very real effect. Whether or not when you're watching the media, of course, they're saying negative things about the shooter, but those that are already among these kind of mind frames still sees it as glamorizing, still sees it as their way to make their name known and make their cause known, just as we saw with Dylan Roof in 2015 with, we talked about him last week as well, with 10 shot, 9 killed in Charleston.
Wasn't one of those a senator?
Yes.
How come that didn't get crazy like one
did.
of us back?
Oh, no.
No, the one of
It
us
did.
thing, like now. No, I know it had crazy footage.
Because he wasn't a Republican senator. The
Oh,
same
is
way
that what
this
it
didn't
is?
happen with Gabrielle Giffords got shot. It didn't become this one of us thing because she was a Democrat. That's
I see.
exactly why. When Gabrielle Giffords was shot in 2011, January, I do believe 2011, it didn't turn into this kind of one of us unifying. The shit I heard on the media on Wednesday of how divisive the left is, and I'm not going to say that part of the left isn't divisive, but you don't want to, when your president is the most divisive person in American history, you cannot come out saying this. The hypocrisy on Wednesday and Thursday was ridiculous. Rand
Yeah.
Paul tweeted about 1 year ago, I posted this too, the tweet saying that, we need the Second Amendment we need guns for a tyrannical government and this, that, and the other. And he was actually shot at on Wednesday. So let's see if they, nothing's going to change.
Can I say-
26-year-old, yeah.
No, I was just back to the media you were talking about. That's something I just thought of. I mean, I haven't just thought of it, but I thought of it before. But it's I think it's valid. Is that what they do is that they'll sensationalize it. They'll show the pictures of the killer. They'll show him in court talking about who else he wants to kill. they'll if I believe these should be reported on. Every time there's a mass shooting, it should be reported on, but it's how it's reported on. They can say,
Right.
oh, there was a mass shooting, so and so, focus on the victims, and then just put the guy's name in print somewhere. No pictures of him, none of his, you know what I mean, none of his
That is,
good
you're
thing,
exactly
or
right.
if you are going to show a picture of the killer, show the ones that the cops killed with his brains blowing out all over the ground, so people have that idea. Like, there, that's what you're going to get if you do this. That would eliminate a
You're
lot of these copycats, because they know they're not going to be all over television, live or die, picture everywhere. For them, it's like, I'm in history now.
hmm you're 100% right. I mean, the research on this shows, for decades, this isn't new. This is not a new phenomena. We've had mass shootings since we've had guns. We've had school shootings since we've had guns. We did see an uptick in the 90s, though, before Columbine. The reason that a lot of people feel Columbine was like our first school shooting or mass shooting, big time, because up until that point, when people thought of mass shootings, they thought of like going postal. From the 80s, where disgruntled postal workers. And then when Columbine happened in 1999, that tends to be what a lot of people think of as like the first big shooting. But of course it's not. That's just the first big one we had with 24-hour news. And so we got to see everything. And then after that, you had shooting after shooting after shooting portrayed on the news. And, you get Virginia Tech, you get Sandy Hook, and so on. And yeah, it doesn't mean that the media can sit there and say negative thing after negative thing, but there's still, and when it's a white man, which 80% of the time to 90% of the time of school shootings, it is a middle to upper class white kid. It's always, this kind of, he was such a good boy. We don't know what went wrong. He was, and I have so many examples and screenshots of this that I use in my classroom to compare how black victims are portrayed in the media, victims, versus how, white shooters are portrayed in the media. And it's completely the opposite. When it's a black victim, it's trying to find any history of criminality. With Trayvon Martin, it was photoshopping fucking guns into his hand, on the media. And just the difference in that sets that tone that keeps that white supremacy alive that so many people want to ignore and think that it doesn't happen until they see it in front of their faces. I do want to say, though, that Anderson Cooper on CNN, I give him credit because after the Batman shooting, he did take a new approach. He does not mention the name or give any pictures of the shooters. He does only focus on the victims. More media needed to focus on the victims. Most people can't name one child who was killed in Sandy Hook, but they can tell you Adam Lanza's name. Or, you can see that with every mass shooting. They can tell you Cho from Virginia Tech. Now, granted, I know their names because I've studied them for so many years. But it's the same. You're only going to know the names that are put all over the place. So those names have to stop.
Yeah.
Well, that's nothing new in American culture, though. I mean, go back to the 20s in Chicago. Everybody knew who Public Enemy number one was. Nobody had an idea who they were killing.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah, we've always seen this with our media. It's that kind of fame that goes with it. And that's one of the biggest problems with the media as well anyway, is that it's always negative stuff. We never hear the positive things. And there are so many positive things they can report on. But people don't tune in for positive news. And people don't click for positive news.
True enough.
We get a lot of myths coming out, that violent crime is at highest rates ever. And then I get this all the time in my classroom, and then I show them the facts. Like, no, not even close. It's lower. It's at the lowest rate since 1996. It's like,
maybe they should sensationalize that, like like they do all the negative stories. Like, have it.
That's my point.
Yeah, like
Absolutely.
coming up at 6. Are you safe in the city you live in? And then at 6 o'clock, they'd be like, hell yeah, you're safe. You're safer than any other city in the world right now, or whatever.
Right. And the same thing goes with, terrorism is another one that you see this. I mean, there was a report that came out less than a month ago showing that CNN had had reported on Islamic terrorism 493% more often than they did domestic terrorism. And 89% of all terrorism in the U.S. was right-wing domestic terrorism. So, like, it just doesn't make sense. So that's why everybody's so terrified of, Islamic terrorism when it's very rare to occur. But anything else, they're not really that scared of. They don't think that's a problem. And it's because of the way the media portrays it. I had this come up when I traveled across to the UK. Everybody was like, "Oh, aren't you?" And this was a year and a half ago. "Aren't you scared of terrorism?" It was right after the attacks in France, and I'm like, I work in a college every day of my life, and I am 100 times more likely to be shot there than to be affected by terrorism in the UK.
Yeah.
You put it that way, though, they all shut their mouth.
Yeah, it's all perspective. Here's a question from Human in the chat room. Why is there saying Australia is having another gun amnesty? They're getting 2,000 firearms stolen a year in Australia, and they're asking why is there not a strong disarm movement in America? And I think that's a very complicated issue, but
Yeah, the NRA is why.
yeah, but I think logically you can't just get rid of all the guns.
Absolutely not.
You still got cops with guns, you still got our military with guns, and they've been proven to turn on us. You can't give them all the power, and there's already guns. It's like you can't.
The answer to that is going to be the constitutional amendment, like it or not. That's what it is. And so, even people who are anti-gun, I'm pretty anti-gun. It's not about taking guns away. It's about getting regulations like background checks. We just had this new Senate and this new Congress remove background checks for the mentally ill less than 6 months ago. Why? 95% of America believes that the mentally ill should not be able to get guns and should have background checks. Yet Congress rolled back that and took that off of, took that one little thing, which is a huge thing, by the way, took it away from them. And so now you don't have to get background checks for the mentally ill everywhere.
Oh.
States are going to be different, but it's very interesting to look at.
I'll tell you why they took it out. Because now there's no discrepancy. If a mentally incapacitated person got a license while they had that on the books, and then if they snapped and killed a bunch of people, then it would be the feds who would wear that. This way, they don't have to do that. It doesn't exist. That's how they wash their hands of the problem they've created. There's just, no, we don't keep track of that. It's not our problem.
You want to know how I think it would be solvable? It would take a long time, but you stop manufacture of guns first. You shut all those companies down. You can't make guns anymore, and you can't sell them here. And then there'd be an underground. There's already more guns in this country than there are people. So then you start doing like buyback programs and stuff, and actually destroying them, not selling them back out to the streets or whatever, or repurposing them for police. What you need to do is start destroying them, and then you need to, I don't know, from there you got to find a way to go further, because as long as the government's armed and you have guns out there, you can't disarm everybody, because then that'll give the wrong people total power over the people. The only reason they can't take us over, I believe, is because we are armed. You know what I mean? You can't. It makes it.
But your
more
guns aren't going to
complicated.
do much. Our guns aren't going to do much against drones and,
Yeah, but I'm saying up
tanks.
until now.
Yeah, up until.
Yeah, but I mean,
I completely understand both sides of the
and
argument.
there will be
The
big
biggest thing is-
casualties. I mean, either way, it's not going to be like all these people with guns aren't going to fight back. It's just the reality. It's going to be mayhem if that happened, and they know that, so they do a more psychological approach right now.
The other thing you need to talk about when it does come to mass shootings is the lack of mental health care in the United States, of course, plays a huge part as well. And it does get brought up more and more, but being talked about is one thing and action is another, and we don't have that action occurring. Right now, the Senate in the dark is deciding to take away, to continue with Trump care and repeal Obamacare, taking away 25 million people's health care. So that's not even looking at the fact of how shitty our healthcare system is anyway. Now you're making it even worse for healthcare. So what do you expect to happen? People are going to get desperate, and they do. And that's not the only reason. And I also want to state that it's not always mental illness. I know people love to say that it's always mental illness, but the research shows that it's not always mental illness. It sometimes is. About
there's just some mean people in the world too.
Absolutely. About 1/3 of the recorded mass shootings are done by somebody who has already been diagnosed with a mental illness. And I'm going to have to be right back because I am being paged into the other room. So please continue without just a minute.
Yeah, speaking of Ray Johansson, who's going to be on your show, Glenn, he was on one of my shows a while back, and he said the same exact thing. He said, looking at it from Norway, where he's at, they can't believe that here in the United States, we don't treat mental illness and we give everybody guns. Like, it's just a recipe for horrific acts to happen,
Well, I mean, we can say the same thing from an ideological point of view in Canada, but I mean, we're next door. And, we get it. We understand what the entire societal norms are in the United States. Like, there's understandably so. I don't have anything against it, but I mean, the percentage of Americans that it's a priority that they own a weapon.
Yes.
And in Canada, it's like, for what? It's just a completely different mindset. And I think that's the hardest thing that Europeans have about understanding just how shit is in the U.S.
Yeah, it's a culture. I mean, until the culture changes, it doesn't matter if you try to take all the guns away or not. It's still going to happen. It is a culture. We are raised in a culture of violence. We have been at war for every year since our existence, with the exception of 17 years. We glorify violence. And then we wonder why we're such a violent nation, why we have the highest rate of crime. Even though our crime is lower than it was 30 years ago, we still have the highest rate of violent crime in the industrialized world. And the question you see, congressmen and Senate and people just saying, but why? Instead of actually looking at the facts of why. We know why. We're academics have been studying this. Scientists have been studying this. We know why. And it's because we glorify violence. We're incredibly censored on sex, but when it comes to violence, we're not censored on that.
Yeah, they make heroes out of the most violent people, the people with guns, the soldiers and the cops. They're the heroes. They always push on you. And then they try to separate you here. That, you got to be skeptical of everybody around you. Anybody, your neighbors could be trying to rob you. You want to protect yourself. Everyone could be against you, and especially if they're different than you. So it's so much propaganda to make people stay in fear where they feel they need to have guns.
But fear sells.
Yeah.
And guns sell. And it is a huge moneymaker for, certain big corporations and senators and congressmen who get that money from them. And that's why you're not going to see a change.
Here's an example.
No change.
We were at this place. I don't know. You guys aren't from here. It's called Lemert Park, and it was for Sandra Bland's Day of Rage, and it was supposed to be crowded and all these people, and then there was like only 4 or 5 people showed up. So I was like, this sucks. And so I'm like, okay, so what we should do probably is just start mobbing through the neighborhoods over here and start rallying people up and get more people out here just from the community, whatever, right? Oh, no, we're not going to go. That's a bad neighborhood. I don't want to. No one would go. No one would do anything. These are cats with Guy Fawkes masks on their face. Who's gonna look at you bad like an enemy? It's ridiculous.
I think
Absolutely.
Not the people of L.A. for the most part, not in that neighborhood.
I think what you also have to always mention, though, the U.S. may still have the highest crime rate in the industrialized world, but that also explains the highest incarceration rate in the entire world. And
that would make sense if those that were in prison were there for violent crime, but over 70% are there for non-violent drug crimes. Then that still doesn't have the logic.
No, it tells you that the prison industry in the U.S. is much more running rampant than anywhere else.
Oh, absolutely, right there. It's a money-making business. All of it is. And that's all it comes down to is capitalism.
Can I ask a question on that? Because I know there were reforms in place to try and remove money. And how's that going from the prison system?
That doesn't get talked about anymore because we have Jeff Sessions as our Attorney General. And most of the reforms, like especially the reforms that were given to different police departments and the privatization of prisons, I don't want to say they've been taken back on the privatization of prisons that had been changed, but I'm almost positive that Trump signed an EO to change that. So I don't have the accurate information. That's one of those things that isn't talked about very much anymore because everything else has just Trump, 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 and a lot of things have been pushed to the side that shouldn't be.
Gail, what did you just post? A New York Times article? I can't look at it while I'm running this.
Oh no, that was just the article stating of Congress rolling back the mental ill rules on buying guns from February of this year.
Yeah.
I'll post it in the Skype chat.
I mean, this isn't anything new. This is day-to-day stuff, sadly. Most people don't realize the extent of our mass shootings. Like I said, most people wouldn't know that it's at 200 for the year. Hell, I didn't even realize it was that high. I didn't realize it was up to 190. I thought it was 150. I think when I told Tim, I said it was 154, and I was wrong. I was off of my numbers. But they're
what did I say then? I was like, holy hell, that's more than one a day. And then it got even worse.
Hmm? But you didn't hear anything. You didn't hear Congress even give a damn about any of them until it was one of their own. And are they going to do anything about it? No, they are not. Instead of actually doing anything about mental illness or, gun control in any way, shape, or form, instead they're turning it into this is divisive rhetoric. This is the left that's causing this. I heard Newt Gingrich the other day when somebody said, "Well, don't you?" Somebody on the media just said, "Well, don't you think that everybody should stop the divisiveness?" And he was like, "No, what? You're on national television saying that we need to fix this problem, and then you're like, no." That's what's doing it. That's not the only thing. There's plenty of reasons. We have, one thing with any kind of problem like this, especially a social problem, is that it's not just one thing that's causing it. But the attitude in this country at this point, the tension it's just rough.
Can I say
and I
this,
do
people?
Expect it to.
I'm gonna separate myself from you guys real quick when I say this because I know it's gonna probably piss people off, but I have no sympathy for that congressman because these people vote to take people's health care, which kills people. They vote to send Americans off to die for corporate money. They don't care about any of that, and they slaughter millions of people overseas for that same corporate money to steal their resources or replace their governments or do whatever they're trying to do over there and destroy people. And it's sick. So they're like mass murderers when I think of them. So getting shot in the knee or leg or whatever it was, oh well. I mean, it sucks. But people are getting shot every day. You don't say jack shit about it. You don't care until one of you guys, your little buddy, gets shot. Then, oh my God, it's us now. Yeah, it was us against you the day before, It just pisses me off. These people are warmongers. He should look at it as a battle wound. I killed millions of people with a pen, and I go with a scratch. I go with a bullet wound in me or a couple bullet wounds, whatever it is. Oh well.
Well, again, like Gal said, this is the societal indoctrination.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even this thing about Trump saying everyone in Washington is there for one reason, because they love their country. Get fucking bent. You got guys like Darrell Issa sitting around in Congress. You got all these multimillionaires that have been in the Senate since the last goddamn century. Yeah, they love America. Fuck off. That is just the biggest crock of shit. And he says it, and nobody refutes it in any form whatsoever.
Absolutely. I just posted a picture of my tweet, kind of not necessarily on the same ideology that you were talking about, Tim, but very close. Susan Davis had tweeted out, "I can't overstate how shaken and emotional lawmakers are today," which this is the day of the shooting. "Everyone I've interviewed has broken into tears discussing the shooting." And I quoted it and said, "I wonder how those 6-year-olds who barely survived Sandy Hook feel. Those emotional lawmakers continue to allow this to happen." So you're not, they ignore when, I mean, if 26-year-olds being shot in their classroom isn't enough to change something, then I don't know what the fuck is. If you go to Australia and you see what took,
that's what it is.
You're probably not wrong there. In Australia, it took one massive mass shooting in '96, the Port Arthur, and then you had Dunblane in Scotland. Yeah, I don't have as much information on a worldwide things that started to change things, but nothing changes anything here, nothing, and that's because it's a moneymaker. That's it. That's all it took.
I think that's exactly why people in other parts of the world can't understand why the U.S. never hits that point. Australia, it was Port Arthur. In Canada, it was the Montreal Polytechnic.
Yes.
That was
Yes.
that was huge.
That was a big one.
Yeah. So I mean, that seems to be the reaction that normal people in other parts of the world, that it's like, okay, fuck this, we got to stop this.
No, but here once though, every time there's a mass shooting, people get scared, and what do? They run off and buy more firearms.
Buy guns. Yes.
That's why
They're
it's a
terrified.
bit, it's all set up like a vicious cycle, and it's
It really
probably
is.
very
It's that
intentional.
fear.
I bet.
It absolutely is, that fear that they're going to take our guns. And the thing is nobody, even in the gun control crowd, very rarely does anybody want to take your guns. How hard is it to get background checks or, anything along those lines is what it just doesn't make sense to me as to why that's a problem, why we don't want it. And again, 95% of this of the United States want background checks on everybody for a gun. But
you know what? No. They could solve that really easy too. You hold gun manufacturers responsible, they'll solve the problem real quick one way or another.
Look at cars and seatbelt laws and how that affected us and how we changed with that. We didn't take cars away because so many people die in car crashes. No, we improved them. You have to go through driver's ed. You have to re-up your license every once in a while. Why should that not be the same for guns?
What about insurance of bullets? Whatever damage the bullet does, the insurance company has to pay for it. How was that?
Well, that's been tried. People have sued. Like, I remember after Columbine, the lawsuits against Kmart, because that's who supplied the bullets to the boys. But that actually made, I think it was Kmart, or was it Walmart? Pretty sure it was Kmart, that made them actually stop selling those bullets or any bullets at that point. So, but again, the only reason that even happened is, one, there was a lawsuit, and two, there was a movie. Bowling for Columbine did it. That kind of well-known Michael Moore movie. It takes that kind of, but I also want to state that was 2000. 1999 was Columbine. We are so far gone from that now. We are in such a much more, so much more divisive. So it would start a civil war if you even tried to enforce background checks at this point.
I think Chris Rock solved the problem long ago. He said, just make bullets cost $5,000. You got to really hate somebody to want to save up to.
Absolutely.
He's like, I'm going to get another job. I'm going to go get some part-time work. I'm going to save up and I'm going to kill your ass. That's how you do it.
It's just, it's flabbergasting to look at the numbers, to look at the statistics, to see the amount of people that are harmed, and to see nothing being done about it consistently. We have averaged one mass shooting a day since Sandy Hook in 2011, 2012. I see they all mixed together now. 2011 would have been Batman shooting. 2012 would have been Sandy Hook.
It's like so much
Look at
people are desensitized to it almost.
That
for the
is,
most part.
That's a good point. As a sociologist, a big point that I focus on is that we are desensitized to this. We are so used to hearing about it now. It's normal. This is normal in the United States to hear about this. The only reason Wednesday made the news is because it was a congressman. Hardly anybody heard about the UPS shooting less than 2 hours later.
Just a little blurb.
Yep. Where it's normal in our society, and we just go, oh no, not another one, and we move about our day. Now, when it was 26-year-olds, that was a little different because they were 6-year-olds. But still, we just went about our days. And, I guarantee you 99% of this population cannot name one child who was killed in Sandy Hook.
Yeah,
but if you watch Megyn Kelly on Sunday night, you might hear about it because she's got fucking Alex Jones on there on Father's Day so that he can deny Sandy Hook ever happened. Don't even get me started.
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing. I think you got to be a special kind of idiot to think Alex Jones is for real. But the fact they give him airtime is just ridiculous.
Absolutely.
He's got a press pass for the White House.
Yeah, but he has his own show. Let him stick to the
special kind of idiot is your president.
Yeah, let him stick to the tinfoil people. Like he's supposed to be. I don't give him a national or international platform bigger than what he already has. It's ridiculous.
I think the only statistic that I'll keep checking on, and it never changes, is that every year the NRA themselves does a survey of their membership, and for about 5 or 6 years now, the 2/3 of the NRA membership is in favor of background check legislation.
Yeah, I always wanted to go into an NRA meeting and interview people for a video, but I'm always scared, You're guaranteed if they don't like the question, you're gonna have to deal with people with guns, and lots of them. So I haven't.
Here's what I find interesting, though: the NRA and their conventions, they don't allow guns.
Exactly.
Really?
Yeah. Look that shit up. That is real.
Oh, I might just
all
have
these
to go and
congressmen
interview
who are
them
all
then.
pro-gun, all these congressmen who are pro-gun never allow guns anywhere near their events.
Yep.
Because they're probably like, I'm not going to be around these whack jobs with guns.
Because it also shows their hypocrisy that it's not it's about that. The only reason they tend to vote that way anyway is because they get money from the NRA. That's proven. We can see how much they get. Everybody who votes on this stuff, we always do. We know exactly how much they got from the NRA. The NRA is one of the most powerful lobbyists in the United States. I won't go with the most powerful, but one of the most powerful. Pharmaceuticals up there pretty high. But yeah, the NRA doesn't even allow it at their conventions.
Well,
I know that.
That's also just like Monsanto. In their buildings, there is no GMO food in their cafeterias.
Very true.
Same thing.
Sheer hypocrisy.
Don't even get me started on Monsanto. We should do a whole show one day. Shouldn't we, Top?
Yes.
That's where my expertise actually comes in at.
She's not lying.
My master's thesis was on Monsanto.
Oh wow. Hey, Top.
I've read every word of it twice. It's absolutely fucking disgusting what that company can get away with.
Wow. Yeah, I know a bit about it, but I wouldn't say I'm anywhere near an expert. It's probably most people would know more than I do. I know they're bad. I know they've done a lot of horrible things, but I don't know all the inner details of it.
You don't want to know it. It's sickening.
It's amazing how little life has value when profits are concerned.
I think that's a great segue.
Exactly.
Into the next topic. Well, actually, I don't know the next topic, but one of the next topics.
You were correct on that. The next topic is the fire.
Oh, perfect.
You know,
Take it over,
real quick, Top. I don't know if everyone else saw that video of that guy. I can't remember. I don't know his name. I read it on the Twitter feed when it came through. He was going off on the news reporters saying it's your fault, it's the government, we need a revolution. That dude's awesome.
Yes, I've actually got this right here. If you want, we can all turn our mics down and I can play it if you like.
Yeah, if you think we can hear it, cool.
Yeah, we can hear it. I do this all the time.
The screen. Yeah. I'm muting now.
Okay.
Can't hear it, Top.
Is he
You
playing
gotta
it
share
already?
Hold on a second. I'll Top.
It's okay.
Did you share it?
Yeah, 2 seconds. I got it. 2 seconds.
You know exactly. I know what it was.
Apologies for that, people. I'm just getting used to the new platform that is the change in Skype. Let's start this again.
What do you want to happen now? What do you think?
What do I want to happen? I want it to be a revolution in this country. I say fuck the media, fuck the mainstream. You don't deserve to be there. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, we should be campaigning not to government, but to the BBC, who acts as mouthpieces for this corrupt government. Do you know what I mean? People need a revolution in this country, nothing short of that. And if this was any other country, there'd have been a revolution. We've seen how you, the mainstream media, have responded and reacted. For 2 years, you've hounded, demonized Jeremy Corbyn. And you said he was unelectable. He can't be, there's no possibility of this man being elected. And you created that narrative that people actually believed your bullshit for a while. But what this election has done is shown that people are immune. They were in bulletproof vests to you and the other billionaire sort of media owners and Rupert Murdoch and all those other motherfuckers. They've been immune to that shit there. And that is the vote of confidence, not in terms of Jeremy Corbyn, but it dismisses May, but it also stands up to you as the mainstream media. I say you personally, but I'm identifying you as the mainstream media. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? I'm saying identify as the mainstream media. You are motherfuckers. You are a bunch of motherfuckers.
I like you anyway.
I like you too. I like you too. I like you fried, boiled, any which way I can fucking have you, motherfucker.
Nice.
Yes,
Brilliant.
That's Ismail Blagrove, and he had some strong words for the media. If you'd like to go and share this video, I am just about to retweet it now from my accounts on Twitter. It's retweeted. I've just posted it. It was just in my field of view, just as you mentioned it. It was just beautiful.
You know what? You're going to have to show me how to do that eventually. But back to the fire. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. But that was a massively important statement that went out to the BBC and the other media organisations. But it's off the back of tragedy, a corporate attack, a financial weapon of poverty was released on that fucking block of flats in London, and it could be over 100 people are dead because of a decision to come under budget on a project. I don't know if anyone saw the pictures from that evening.
Oh God, I watched it as it was happening live, and it was the second most horrifying thing I've seen in my life. First, of course, is going to be 9/11, which is what that fucking reminded me of.
Yeah, it's... I'm going to get to that, Gal. Great link as well. This is just absolutely sickening. The building exploded effectively because of a cladding material that was chosen by the contractors and the project developers. They chose a non-fire resistant cladding over fire resistant cladding. Okay, and the difference was £2 a metre. To put that entire building in fire-resistant cladding would have cost £5,000, and that massacre, that fucking tragedy would never have happened. £5,000.
Unbelievable.
That's the difference between life and death of 100 people.
It's sickening.
It's a corporate attack on the poor.
I want to state though, it's a state corporate attack on the poor. This isn't just corporate. The state had something to do with this. The government had something to do with this. Parliament could have changed this, could have had those regulations put in place. 71 Tories voted against it.
That's right. There was a time when things like this were legislated. They've been removed.
Exactly.
Their attempt to put legislation through just comes up against corporate interest. So there's I don't know if it's financial kickbacks. I don't have any proof of that. But to make any legislative changes to the building code here in the UK, it can take 5 years. There's some stipulations from coroners on previous disasters where death occurred because of bad building practices. The lessons learned from that, from the coroner, they still haven't been implemented from 2009 in the UK. So it's a calamity of incompetence. At the very least, should I say, it's incompetence. At the very worst, it's fucking intentional. And that intention is the bottom line, and that's profit. Now, I'm going to post a link because me and Gal did some research. I was driving in the car, so I didn't have access to my computer. But I asked Gal, I said, who we got there? Everything
I think
okay?
Tim's moving out on us.
Tim, don't
Hello?
go down.
No.
There, you're back.
Did I drop out?
No, you just made a lot of noise.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
So, Gal was. I asked Gal, can you look into the partners on the renovation of this building and see what we can come up with? And we did. Gal did a bit of fantastic research and digging around. And by the time I was almost home, we'd found the material that caused this disaster. It was a form of aluminium and polyethylene composite called Bond. NC. Now, I know for a fact we were the first people to find that out because only today is the media finally reporting on these panels of Bond. We found this information on Wednesday. Now, when you go and look at Alcoa's very own website, you have two choices of Bond to purchase. One is flame retardant, one is not. When you looked at that building going up, you knew that was not a flame retardant material that was combusting. Now, I've got the safety data sheet for this Bond here. Here we go. Now, one, it can cause, let's just go through this, reproductive toxicity, category 1B. That means it's known or suspected problems with your reproductive organs, for a start. Specific target organ toxicity under repeated exposure. OSHA defined hazards, combustible dust, may form combustible dust concentrations in air, may cause damage to organs by inhalation. So even those that did survive that disaster are going to have health problems because of this material that was put on their building to keep them warm, no less. Can you believe that this cladding was put on the building to make it look nice and save on the electricity?
Top, can you explain the class situation of Kensington where this occurred?
Yeah, Kensington is in a district of London. You have the US Embassy within that district. You have some of the highest valued property prices in probably most of the world in this borough. And yet you have in the same borough some of the most deprived areas in Europe, all within a mile of each other, all under the same council.
Right. So some of the things that I'd seen reported was that this cladding was used. The only reason they really put it on there was because it was an eyesore to the rich. The wealthy were
Yes.
complaining of how the building looks, so they chose to put this cladding on last year, I believe.
Yeah, it's a building that was designed and erected in the White Rose Club, one of the richest zones in the world. But the building itself was in an area that the council wanted to, shall we say, install gentrification.
And this was social. This was social housing, right? I'm trying to help people who don't know about the situation. This was social housing. This was government housing, correct?
Effectively, it was paid for by the government for social housing for residents to live there. But they had a private landlord. It was the private landlord that brought in the contractors to clad the building, install central heating. So, yeah, it's a very poor area of London within a very rich area of London.
Right. That stuff's not being reported over on our end, which is why I wanted like anybody who's listening from America or maybe even Canada to understand that this was social housing. This was the projects.
Yeah, effectively. Now, nearly £10 million was spent to make the place look pretty. Because it's an up-and-coming area. They didn't want old 70s building putting off prospective buyers for the more expensive properties in the region. So they wanted it to look nice, so they put the cladding on, so everything looked fine. That didn't really work out the plan, did it? So the Reno bond is one aspect of it. The implementation or the attachment of it to the building is another cause for concern, but that won't come out until further on down the road. But I've got it here. It's fire-resistant cladding, £24 a square metre. Non-fire resistant type cladding that was used on Grenfell Tower, $22. So that's less than $3 per metre difference. $3 less.
Man.
Yeah. Now, incidentally, the contractor that renovated the building, Tim, I don't know if you mic, lots of back feedback there.
I don't think he can. I don't think he can mute his mic.
I was muted.
Oh, damn!
Wow.
I have a playful puppy running around me right now, so I apologize about that.
Ah, that's what it is. Okay.
So yeah, 8.7 was the contracted value of the refurbishment. Now, as I said, I asked Gary. I said, look, we need to find out who were the contractors on this project, and it turned out Ryden were the contractors, who then subsequently subcontracted to other teams to. They call it rain screen cladding. Externally, rain screen cladding or curtain wall facade and replacement windows were fitted, improving thermal insulation and modernising the exterior of the building is the selling point to this. And I'll post this in the chat as well, because the contractors that undertook the work, they removed certain. Did they remove all of their website, Gal?
Just the parts that had to do with Grenfell Tower. And they removed it at 4 a.m.
in the morning.
Right, about 3 hours after the fire started. I can get you that web cache if you'd like.
Please, yeah, post it to the chat. So, yeah, I just wanted to know what this cladding was made of. Because concrete, if you look at the imagery and you look at the film footage, concrete is not flammable. That building burned from the outside in. That's not normally how fires work. So it had to be the exterior that was at fault, and it's the cladding. And it took all the media until today to actually come to the realisation of this. We knew this on Wednesday night by 10:30.
Well, in reality, the issue is they have to have their storyline prepared before they bring that to the public.
I didn't have such any such restrictions. I put a call out on Wednesday night that all buildings with this Rhino board cladding need to be condemned, and that cladding needs to be removed immediately. It's summer; they don't need fucking insulation. Remove the cladding, then evaluate.
I agree 100%, but you know, we know why the media is taking so long to tell everybody what can easily be found out elsewhere. They have to be ready for the spin.
Indeed they do. And White Rose Club's just put that the company that's involved in this renovation are actually, they hold their accounts offshore. So they're not even paying tax in this country, but they're being paid effectively by the government and the taxpayer to renovate a building on the cheap. And they brought it under budget. They would have all got bonuses for bringing it under budget. They'd have all celebrated the fact of how great they were at managing a habitable environment, and they would have thought of themselves. They would have thought themselves as gods. And how many other contracts have they been involved with? Now, I'm glad Human's in the chat, because we was posting on the Wednesday that this same material was actually being questioned due to a fire in Australia. This material that Alcoa make is not even allowed to be sold on buildings in America. Alcoa is an American company.
Wow.
Yeah. Germany has banned this material for building purposes. It's flammable. Why would you make a building flammable? It's polyethylene. It's a plastic.
Because you don't give a shit.
Now, I'm not an engineer. I kind of am. I work in an engineering industry, but I'm not a qualified engineer. But it doesn't take a genius to figure if a building is burning on the outside, something attached to that building is causing that damage. So, London is suffering major anguish. Reported 700 people turned up at the local council today in Chelsea and Kensington and stormed the council. There is going to be riots because of this. I don't think. I think the politicians know what's coming. Theresa May didn't even meet with any of the
Victims.
locals, the victims, the sufferers of this fucking...
And she said it was for security reasons, but Jeremy Corbyn had no problem walking with them,
Yes.
talking with them.
So that trying to save them £5,000 is going to end up costing them drastically more. Jackass.
Well, the company that White Rose Club, they've gone into liquidation, which is pretty powerful, of course. They'll probably set up another entity off the back of the profits. Remove all the profits. It's an offshore account. Declare yourself bankrupt. Move on. Set up another shell company.
Top, I got a question.
Fire away, mate.
I mean, considering the feeling and considering how things have been changing rather quickly, especially in England, not just the UK, and with Kensington and Chelsea just electing a Labour MP.
Yes, they did.
Do you think there's enough here that this is going to be an official royal inquiry?
There's going to be a public inquiry.
Okay.
There's a health and safety executive inquiry, and now there's also a criminal inquiry. I think the people's demands today is that they don't want a government-run inquiry. They don't want a public inquiry. They want an independent inquiry.
Ah.
I think they've got every fucking right to get exactly what the fuck they want.
So that would demonstrate that the average man on the street, quote unquote, does not trust their own government to do this on the level.
No, Kanjan is the perfect person to discuss this. But historically, if you look back at the Orgreave inquiry and more recently Hillsborough inquiry, they were government run. They had to. The problem. There was a lawyer on the news today. There's a problem with these public inquiries, is that the public are not represented in these inquiries. They don't have the legal funding. They don't have the law behind them and supporting and giving them representation. So that's why these inquiries don't actually solve anything. With Hillsborough, it was the third inquiry, and that was an independent inquiry. The public involved actually had representation that anything actually changed or any blame could be asserted. That's the difference.
That is true. I do remember that about Hillsborough, because the first two that the government did, well, we just can't pin it on anybody. We just don't know what happened.
So,
but yet at the third one, we certainly found out all along.
Exactly. Now, it's the independent inquiry that they're looking for, but we don't have time for an independent inquiry. I think the Mayor of London, Sajid Khan, is absolutely right. They need answers on, as far as I'm aware, buildings are being inspected as we speak for risk. A risk analysis is being undertaken as we speak at the moment. So, yeah, I personally think we should be hiring teams of people and buying equipment. How that cladding was installed is a lot easier to remove it than it was to install it. Rip the fucking lot off these buildings. Who gives a fuck what it looks like? Because here's the thing as well, is it's reported online that certain terrorist organisations have cottoned on to how dangerous these buildings are. It just takes a fucking lunatic to rent a bottom floor flat, cause a domestic fire, and use that building as a weapon. That's what we're dealing with. And it's no joke. This was actually, they've looked at the apartment where this fire was started. The guy who lived there, it was in the one of our media tabloid press. They were blaming the guy, a poor guy, because his fridge failed. His fridge was next to his window. It set on fire. It set his window on fire, which then in turn set the cladding on fire. And the UK media, or certain aspects of the UK media, try to blame him.
Yeah, I saw that report.
Now we've got a habit. Once a day. Listen to this. The Fire Brigades Union reported, I think it was Thursday, the Fire Brigade attends an incident every single day of a white good, by that I mean fridge, wash machine, tumble dryer, that type of thing in your kitchen, setting fire to a house. Now, but that's just part of the story, because we've got here in the UK many tens of thousands of white goods that are known to have electrical faults by the manufacturer, and they can't repair them quickly enough. So that's another corporate crime.
So do the people in charge, or the builders, or the people that approved it, do you think any of them will be held accountable, or are they just going to go away scot-free?
I don't think it will. The public won't allow that to happen this time, I'm afraid. And Kanjan's right. The Daily Mail tried to deflect anger at a man whose fridge set on fire, but there were power surges within the building since its renovation. This is what the company that owns the building, they decided that they needed to put new gasworks in the building, so they put gas pipework in public gangways and the stairs. Gas pipework in the stairs.
Wow.
And I was listening, We had a conversation. I think it was with you. Why didn't people put this? Why couldn't people put the fires out themselves? There's another guy in a block that watched this entire disaster unfold in front of him, living in an identical block. He was showing the news report around today, saying, please grab any fire protection equipment that's in the building. And there was no fire extinguishers in the building at all. So they had no way to defend themselves against fire.
They also didn't have a centralized alarm, correct?
Yep, they did have a centralized alarm, allegedly, but it never went off. People only knew their building was on fire because they heard people screaming, don't jump, from the windows.
Yeah, it was a death trap just waiting to happen.
A brand new building without a centralized fire alarm system working. Once smoke got into your room, it would set your own alarm off, but the centralized alarm didn't work. It failed, or it wasn't switched on. We don't know. That will come out in the inquiry. And here's another issue is there were no sprinklers. I think it was £180,000. You could have put sprinklers in that building. Now, flats are supposed to design today. When they're designed today, they are to contain a fire. A fire is not supposed to spread to another flat. So you've got fire-proof doors. In Wales, you'll have a sprinkler system by law. In England, you don't. And that's a political decision only.
For what? Saving more money?
To save money on landlords that cannot afford to renovate and provide safety in the home. Now, if your home is not safe, then you shouldn't be fucking renting it out. You should not be making a profit from an unsafe home. That should be the law, but it's not.
Man, that's horrible.
Yeah, so there it is. White Rose Club's just put no fire extinguishers, no sprinklers, no alarms, no hoses in a building 24 stories high.
Yeah, see over here in Canada, like there's just no way that building would even be open. Like forget, no occupancy permit. Forget it. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, here it might go by if they paid off a inspector or something, which tends to happen a lot, but it would technically be illegal to do that. But then again, yeah, I mean, the whole Flint situation is screwed up right now too. Been screwed up for the last forever. But yeah, so I guess around the world, except for Canada, people generally don't care.
Now, Top, is it true that there have been complaints going in to the authority on this tower for years and nothing's ever done?
I just posted part of that into the chat for you, if you want me to post it to you as well, Canadian Glen. But go ahead, Top. I just wanted to say I just posted that.
There's been a lot of blogs. The actual building itself was declared an unsafe hazard, and it has been for a number of years, before the renovation and after. The cladding itself didn't necessarily come under any scrutiny because who looks to see if your building's just been coated in plastic, effectively? Who puts flammable material on the exterior of a building and cocoons an entire concrete structure in flammable material? You just wouldn't think it would be possible. What engineering practice comes up with that idea? You turn a concrete structure, non-flammable, into a flammable weapon. Somebody made a choice to do that, and we need to find out who and why. Man. Was it naivety? Did they not read the material safety data sheet that I'm looking at right now? May form combustible dust concentrations in air. May cause damage to organs by inhalation. May damage fertility. Hazard statement by Alcoa. Combustible material in the air. Did you see what was falling off that building?
Yep.
Flammable, combustible material. Fuck's sake. Now 100 people are dead.
Yeah, the White
Well,
Rose Club says last year Jeremy Corbyn tried to get a bill passed to force government to make social housing safe. The Tories all blocked it. Tories are all the
79,
landlords.
yes, 79 of them were landlords. But yeah, they pretty much wholesale blocked the reforms to make housing habitable for human habitation. I was listening to some reasoning behind it, although it was quite weak reasoning in the last couple of days, but there's been quite strong arguments against it. One is cost. Not everyone that's a landlord can afford to make the renovations. Well, I'm sorry, but if you can't afford to make renovations to make your home, your rental property habitable, you shouldn't be in the business of renting out homes to families, children, and this is what's worse as well. White Rose Club informed me, and I've heard it from witnesses in reports as well. There were disabled people in wheelchairs on the top floor of that building when it was on fire.
Man.
That's how low we are in the UK. We put disabled people 24 stories in the air, and through corporate fucking criminality and state criminality, we've burned them alive. Now you understand why there's anger on the streets of London, and enough is enough.
Yeah, and all the people in the other buildings that they did like that, you know, that they built like that, are probably in terror right now.
There's great fear all across the country. Any building that has cladding, they don't know. Is it fire resistant? Is it not? Are you living in a possible inferno? Do you have an idiot at the fucking bottom of your flat that's going to fall asleep with a cigarette in his mouth, set a light to his flat, set a light to his window, set a light to the panelling, and the whole lot's gone? Is some person with jihadist tendencies going to intently set fire to the flat at the bottom of your building? Do you know if you're going to survive it or not? It's like Russian roulette of housing.
well, that opens up a whole nother avenue because fire has been an effective means of insurance fraud since fire.
Yeah, this is now in the beyond just insurance claims. This is public liability. Now, I don't know what type of insurance these companies are going to have, or what fines are going to be levied against the government entity, the local Kensington and Chelsea borough. But ultimately, it's going to be the taxpayers that pay the fines.
Yep. As always.
It's no loot. A couple of guys will get a prison sentence. Everybody that invested in the company gets off scot-free. All the investors that... Sorry, go on, go.
I have some breaking news that is heartbreaking. And I hate to break into this, but the Minnesota officer who fatally shot Philando Castile has just been acquitted.
Oh, man.
It just happened.
But that's normal. That's
it's
normal
expected.
Here too.
Is it, as expected as it is, does your heart still not sink every time? Because mine does.
I get furious every time.
Yeah.
James Boyd as well, Gal, wasn't it, this week?
Yeah, over the weekend, the officer who was not technically acquitted, there was a hung jury, so he got his job back and $140,000 back pay for James Boyd. But Philando Castile,
and it was on video.
Video.
Like, I mean, what the hell more do you need?
12 to 15 deputies
The dude had
outside.
done nothing wrong. He told him he had a gun on him. I mean, it was illegal. It was a legal gun. Legal. Everything was legit. He had nothing. If he was a white dude, he'd still be alive on his job doing whatever he do. And his pig gets the fuck off. That's disgusting. Every time. It just enrages me. And they wonder why people hate them. Why do you hate the pigs? You know, they're disgusting. They're just... I watched a video the other day. I don't know. It was released camera footage. And these cops killed some guy's dog. and then they're over by their car laughing about it, talking about, hey, animal lovers, and he said, I shot the dog. He's like, nice. And I'm sure they do that for people too. They're disgusting individuals. They just want to kill. If you want to kill people and get away with it and be a serial killer, become a cop. That's my advice to you. You will never go to jail. And you'll get vacation time for killing.
Absolutely right. Best tweet I've seen so far out of it. There's almost literally nothing a police officer can do to a black person that they can't find legal justification for and get away with. 5 minutes ago, Joel Anderson.
Well, hopefully there's going to be a huge riot there. We need a nationwide riot. We need to shut everything down.
It goes throughout all of society, though. If you look at corporate and state crime against the environment, corporate and state crime against blacks, corporate and state crime against poor communities in London just this very week, they've been allowed to get away with it. 2009, legislation was suggested and it didn't go through because it was just too expensive. They can just get away with fucking murder. Now, I don't know about the United States, whether the camel's back's been broken by that final straw. I think London has received that final straw. This week,
the U.S. hasn't had that final straw yet. I don't know when it's going to come, but it's not here yet.
I'd like to, if I can, just prove some more how sickening this country is. Because a Sun news journalist, this is the same news organisation, Murdoch Empire, by the way, that hacked Millie Dowler's phone. That's a dead girl's phone, to read her voice messages. This is the same news organisation that labelled Liverpool football supporters at the Hillsborough disaster, saying they were pissing on the dead and stealing from their pockets. It's just been reported that a Sun news reporter pretended to be a fake relative from one of the people's in this disaster's relatives in the Grenfell Tower fire. A Sun news reporter pretended to be a relative of one of the victims. Can you believe that?
Yes, I can.
And one more thing. On my Twitter right now, excuse me, bear with me, I just lost it. I'll get it up now.
I'm in a damn daze right now. That just pissed me off so damn much. That's like not the news I needed right now about.
I'm sorry. I'm right there with you. I know. I'm right there.
Man.
There's a Conservative MP from Solihull Council comparing the Grenfell Tower community to a lynch mob. A Conservative MP that's presided over austerity and cuts to councils and to our health, safety and well-being is now calling people that are protesting, he's calling them a lynch mob. I tell you what, there should be a fucking lynch mob. And I think
that's Marie Antoinette level response.
Yeah.
But at least it's a lynch mob. Here they call them terrorists if they can. For smashing windows or something. It's a terrorist act, depending on where you're at.
Yeah. Writing chalk on the floor is a criminal act in the UK.
Some
I tell you what,
here as well.
In the United Kingdom, okay, there is no justice, there is no democracy, and do you know how I know that? Progressives are attacked by the lynch mob that is the police. You want to protect the environment with your son? You will both be attacked. And you can be a political leader in the UK and you will still be attacked by the police for protecting your water. Now that is not a democracy at all. Now that's the leader of the Green Party, Caroline Lucas, was with her son down at Balcombe, protecting their water against a fracking organisation that wanted to drill into their land and potentially contaminate their water supply. It's on camera and film. The police officers were digging their knuckles into her son's neck's pressure points on camera while he was holding on arms with his mother. That's how low we are in the United Kingdom. So do I have any hope that there's going to be any change? Not at the moment, but it's coming.
Yeah. Riots allow the enemy to dismiss the people, said White Rose Club.
Yeah.
What was the last rioting in London?
That was a black man again. I do apologise. I don't recall his name. Was shot by the police. It then kicked off into several nights of rioting and several properties, etc., were damaged. I don't condone rioting. I'm not here to promote acts of violence. But what I will say is I haven't been put in the position where I've lost all hope and despair.
Yeah, well, two things: violence, property damage, and vandalism isn't violence, and that's a misconception a lot of people have. You know, you can't hurt a side of a building. You can't hurt a bank window. You know what I mean? If there's not people being harmed in there, it's not violence. And
that's why we have differences in the UCR, the FBI Uniform Crime Report for property crimes versus violent crimes.
Yes.
Violent crimes include people being injured. Fucking up your windows is not violent crime.
Exactly. But also, when I say riot, I'm thinking of a organized uprising, shutting everything down. Smashing windows is on the table. You know what I mean? Burning police cars is on the table. But mainly, shutting down the streets. No one's getting to work. Your businesses aren't making money. Nothing is going to move until you give us what we want. That's how you have to do it. And yeah, whatever. We're ready for whatever. We got to sit out here for a week, a month. That's the only way it's going to change. People have to be dedicated to making sure shit doesn't move. Businesses don't make money. The things they care about, they're not getting. They don't care about the people. They only care about the money. Therefore, take their money by any and all means necessary.
Well, that's why a general strike is immediately described as being the ultimate communist act, because it works. And we have to discourage that sort of thing.
Oh, man. So much corruption.
Ah, yes.
You know,
and this, everywhere.
This is only what we know. Just remember, this is only what we know. Look at the Panama Papers, what that exposed. Panama Papers, Mossack Fonseca isn't even the largest company that organises the facilitation of financial vehicles into offshore fucking accounts and criminality. I think it's third or fourth largest company that's involved in it. Where's the hacks on the other three?
I just want to make a statement. Human makes a perfect point in the chat that when it's, football fans smashing out windows, it's not even talked about as being terrorists or protest or riot. In the United States especially, you only get the term riot when black people or brown people are involved in them. That's the only time you will find that term used in the United States media, and that's done on purpose. It's a system of white supremacy in order to dehumanize and to make another group look violent compared to the dominant. We see the same thing with the terms looting and stealing. I've got perfect examples of that from the same exact day during Hurricane Katrina. I've got screenshots of the difference between looting and stealing. But we still see it. We saw it with Ferguson. There were like 3 riots in one day in West Virginia. I mean, in October of 2014, and Ferguson still had active protests going on at the time, and the news didn't even touch the other 3. And one was in West Virginia over a football game. One was in Keene, New Hampshire.
Setting out some
Pumpkin
steps
Fest.
that are going to make it easier for businesses
What
to
is that?
cope with this great big machine of health.
I'm like, why is somebody talking to me in a British accent? It's not top.
No, I clicked on your independent article on David Cameron that I will kill off the safety culture from 2012. I'm just about to post it. I didn't realise it started auto-playing.
Yeah.
Fucking
But
stupid thing.
just Mark
Got it.
Duggan. There you go. But yeah, that's just the point of the terms that are used. So when you hear riot, most people don't think of white people involved in that in the United States. Of course, I'm speaking because the media has framed that very, very well.
Yeah. It's like they used to. Now they've changed it more because people started bitching. They say police are looking for a suspect. That would be a white person. Police are looking for a black suspect, Mexican suspect, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But the white suspect would never be a white suspect.
And then
everybody thinks.
once they find out it's a shooter, there's a shooter, and we even saw this on Wednesday morning when the shooting happened. The first thing out of all over Twitter from the alt-right was it must be a Muslim, this, that, and the other. And then it becomes the lone wolf because he's a white guy. It's always a lone wolf and mentally ill and all this other stuff. But at the second that they think that it's a brown person, it's terrorism, it's this, that, or the other. It's crazy, but it's there.
Yeah, I watched the day that white supremacist Congress guy got shot. It started off with it on Twitter, not from the official reports, just the people on Twitter. It was a Muslim attack at first, and it was the Muslims' fault. These ISIS, but they always say Muslims as ISIS is one and the same to them. And then it started changing, and it was Antifa. And then it started changing. They found out who it was, and then they seen he had supported Bernie. So
it's a Bernie supporter.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden Kathy Griffin, and then even Hillary Clinton, which is everybody they could find on the other side of the aisle. It was
right,
just so ridiculous.
But those same people never said a damn thing about the situation in Portland 3 weeks ago. They never say anything when it's the stereotypical right-wing domestic terrorist. And I am not at all saying that this left-wing, this dude from the St. Louis area, he was he had a history of domestic violence. He had so much history that there should have been, whether or not it should have been marked for, the type of thing he did, I'm not saying. But nobody gave a damn about this guy when all he did was beat his wife and kids. And it was known. But
yeah,
I'm sorry. It's too close to home. It's pisses me off.
Well, again, he didn't just try and kill his neighbor. He tried to kill, somebody from the club.
Right, and you've got the senators now, because he was from Illinois. You got the senators in Illinois who are now trying to use this to say that people should stop protesting. That protesting is causing this.
Yep, I saw that.
It's causing this divide. They need to just get over it. I saw two senators say that yesterday, that this is what we need to do now. We need to stop protesting and of course, it's going to come back down on the rhetoric that's used, and it's going to come down on anti-Trump posts on Facebook because he had a lot of those. But anytime, it's somebody else, nothing ever gets fucked done.
Well, I mean, quite honestly, to be on the other side of the border here, I just can't believe how easily the American public just continues to accept all this boilerplate bullshit and just go on. We can't believe it.
Yeah, I'd like to say this. All these people get shot all the time. Mass shootings go on, and Congress never once has paid their bills. But, this guy, Steve Scalise, we're paying his bill. And now it's us all of a sudden. Our tax dollars pay for his health care. He's not going to lose health care or anything.
Nope.
These people are pieces of crap. I mean, it's just really... I don't... It's like...
The Senate has been behind closed doors for the last week working on getting rid of Obamacare and passing Trump care quietly. Nobody even knew about it until yesterday.
Yeah, but
they'll keep theirs, won't they?
But the Democrats won't oppose them either because they won't give us health care. They won't give us universal health care. They all
Democrats are going to oppose it, but there's not enough of them to do anything about it.
Yeah, that's true. But, I mean, they're all paid by the same health care, the same companies. Even who was it? Nancy Pelosi said that single payers, no way they're going to give us universal health care, Medicare for all.
Oh, there's no way in hell that'll happen. Not for a long time. It's not logically possible.
But all of them get it with their job.
Absolutely, I agree with you 100%.
That we pay for.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll see what the California experiment holds.
That's exactly the only way it's going to happen. It's going to go state by state. That's the only way it'll happen.
Nevada, I hear, is trying to get Medicare for all now.
It's going to have to go. It's going to be just like any other massive change we've seen. We saw this with interracial marriage. We saw this with gay marriage. We're seeing it now with the legalization of cannabis. And we're going to see the same thing with healthcare. It's going to have to go state by state, and it's going to be decades worth of work. Yeah. Because ultimately, the reason Obamacare did get into the negative shape that it got into was because of the states that refused to allow anything to go through. And then those are the people who are angry about it, but they're not angry at their congressmen or their governors who didn't allow it. They're angry at Obama because his name's on Obamacare.
That's just it. That's another thing that kills me up here. It's all these pissed off people at Obama, at the Democrats, at this, at that. They're all red states where their own state government either declined federal funding or would not meet the criteria for federal funding. It's their own goddamn fault.
Yep, absolutely. And they're the same people who will go, I want to keep the ACA, but I want to get rid of Obamacare. It's the same fucking thing. But they have been so polarized by Fox News and CNN that they don't even know what they have and what has helped them. Welcome to Divide and Conquer.
Yeah. Propaganda is a motherfucker.
It absolutely is.
The press have a lot to blame. Now, I've been seeing a lot this week. I can't recall if I'm sure I mentioned it last week, but the press isn't free. It's not a free press. You have corporate interests protecting offshore benefits to their family and their legacies. And they will report on policies that are beneficial to allow them to keep their offshore interests and their family legacies. Now, just today, I mentioned with the Sun newspaper, with getting a story, faking being a relative of somebody in hospital from a fucking tragedy, whatever it takes type of mentality. I think it's time to get rid of this type of gutter press, whichever side of the fucking fence they're on. The media allows the politicians to get away with what they do. They are the mouthpiece of politicians. Now, it's what Ishmael Bladegrove said. Fuck them off out of it. It's time to put this charade to an end. This is real life. This isn't make-believe. This isn't let's make up a narrative that provides our own interests. This affects people's lives, and people die because the media and the decisions that they make on what to report. So they are a weapon, and they need to be seen as such. And when you see the media as a weapon, you can act accordingly and do whatever necessary action that you feel. You can stop buying it. You can stop buying from the partners that invest in advertising on those media.
And here, go ahead.
No, go on. Carry on.
I was going to say, like, here you see them all the time on a corner somewhere reporting on something. You just shut them down, really. Yank a cable. Do whatever you got to do. Like, no, you're not. We own these streets. You don't report in the favor of the people. You got to get the hell up out of here. Go report somewhere else. You know? They have to... Whatever, just shut them down. Just stand in front of the reporter. Who cares? You don't have to be violent. Just make sure they're not going to record.
Every single advertiser in the Sun newspaper, contact them and let them know. So how do you feel about one of the Sun's reporters acting in this manner in the wake of a national tragedy? Your employees, the company that you advertise in are acting in this manner. Are you going to withdraw your advertising? Contact them. Let them know. En masse. Gal, you know the figures after Fox News and the charades there after sexual harassment cases over decades and stuff, and advertisements dropping through the fucking floor.
Yeah, they've dropped actually down to third in ratings for the first time in 17 years since the Bill O'Reilly situation.
Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that sexual misconduct should not be taken lightly. Not at all. They deserve to be losing funding because of it. But why is the Sun newspaper not losing revenue and advertising in the same fashion when, like Hillsborough, dozens of lives were lost, and yet people still affiliate with the newspaper and still advertise in that newspaper? It's time to fucking sack this type of media. It's not conducive to our society. It's actually a threat.
Yeah.
Well, like I've said numerous times on Twitter, I'm sure maybe even some of you have seen it. When I get into a discussion like this with somebody, I say, well, you have to understand that corporate media and the politicians have the same bosses. That's why we have what we have. There is no difference in opinion at the top of the food chain.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Flint right now. That was a sneaky segue. Finally, after all this time... Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, and not just Flint, there are over 1,000 other communities in the United States that have water worse than Flint.
Yeah, a lot of native reservations have been worse
as
than
well
Flint for a long time.
Oh, yes, many, many years.
We were going to talk about that next week as well, I believe.
Go on with your segue to Flint. I just always want to remind people that there are so many people that are just ignored. And Flint was ignored for way too long as well. There are deaths that are attributable. You've got 5 manslaughter charges this week in the Flint situation, which is shocking as all hell from state corporate crime. We don't ever see those kind of charges, so that is a good thing. The charges are a good thing. We don't know if they'll actually be convicted, right? We know how this goes.
Well, here's the thing: even if convicted, there's from a fine of $1,500 to 15 years in prison, or both, up to 15. So I mean, they could literally get fined $1,500 and get a little bit of jail time or something, or community service. That's how it usually goes in these kind of things. If they even want to even try to slap them on the wrist and not just acquit them.
That's all it is. That slap on the wrist.
Yeah, it's all set up for justice to not be able to be pushed forward and to fail the people. But to look like we did it, there was a trial, you know what I mean? So the whole grand jury police thing, it's all a sham set up to make us believe something is being done about the problem.
Get you to stop protesting.
That'll never happen.
But it does. It does. I
meant personally with me.
I didn't mean you personally. I didn't mean you personally.
I know.
But what it's to do, it's to placate those that are angry, to make it look as though there's going to be some form of justice. There never is. But the whole point is to get people off the streets.
Yeah. A lot of people fall for it, unfortunately.
Manufactured consent.
I got blocked by 2 racists yesterday on Twitter. That's something special.
Highlight of the day.
Yeah. Usually, it's 1 or something, but 2 in a day is pretty good. Because I don't look for them. They have to find me for me to bother them. But I don't think anything. And then the governor, one tough nerd, Snyder, whatever his name is, he has like immunity or something now, so he's not even going to be brought up on any charges.
Right.
Well, I kind of think that's why they're making such a big deal out of this, and look at all these charges, because one of those 5, that's the scapegoat. That's the Lee Harvey Oswald in that 5.
Exactly. There'll be fines in a little mini sentences of community service or blah, blah, and one of them's going to take the big fall. Exactly. You're correct, Glenn. That's exactly what I thought.
But, that's one thing. It just better not become the focus, because there's so much work and so much money that finally is starting to get pointed towards Flint to correct this. So that should be where the follow through is, I think.
I think honestly they should lock them all with the governor in a cell and give them only Flint water. That's all they can drink. Nice big brown glasses of water. If you're thirsty, that's what you got. You thought it was good enough for the people of Flint, it's good enough for you, right?
Well, that's been the opinion of some, like City of Flint, for a couple years now. You know.
Don't they keep shutting his accounts down or her accounts down?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, every so often I get refollowed. I'm like, oh, there it is again. Something happened. Dang it. It's crazy. And
well,
that's the person that's bringing the most giving the most exposure to the whole Flint thing, as far as I know. It might have been swept under the rug until more recently without them. That's why getting involved and doing something helps, even if it's just you. Do whatever you have to do. Fight for what you believe in. Don't give up. Stand alone if you have to. Be a damn warrior. It's not that hard.
Well, I remember a time when.
Sorry,
wow.
My phone.
Well, I remember.
It was the IT crowd.
I remember
yeah,
a
that's
time
my
when.
ringtone. Sorry.
I remember when City of Flint was the only person on Twitter talking about the lead in the water in Flint, you know? And we got to go back to like 2013 even.
It's been a long time, definitely, yeah.
You know? So, I mean, yeah, that is, that is proof positive. You keep pushing.
I've been following that guy since then. He has been relentless.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I've spoken to him. I know him. And I'm not sure if you guys know, but I mean, what really got him going is that the water was responsible for the death of his dog. And that's what really started it all.
And it's not resolved. It's still ongoing.
Oh, yeah.
People are being threatened with jail for failure to pay water bills.
For water they cannot use.
Yeah.
But it's a free market.
Oh, the free market is wonderful, isn't it? We need to globalise. We need to capitalise on the free market. Everyone should have the choice and have the opportunity to trade across borders without restriction, without regulation, without guidelines. Well, look where that's got London this week.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Free market capitalism allows for free reign over your rights as a human to live.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. So you can have flammable panels manufactured by Alcoa put on a building in London, England.
That won't be put on a building in America.
Yes.
These CEOs being dragged out in cuffs and locked away. I don't understand this. If anyone else did something, just people get locked away in certain states for having a joint. These people
don't get me wrong. There's no culpable responsibility for Alcoa on this because and there's a couple of things that I'd like to mention. One, if you go and look at the original website where the Renault bond is shown, you can see that there's different types of Renault bond, and you can click on the individual summary sheet. But the master safety data sheet was removed, Gal. That's correct, because we couldn't open it. We had to recall the services of a friend.
Yeah.
It was taken away from the advertising facing website. You couldn't click on the safety data sheet for Renault bond through the Alcoa website. Now, I don't know why. I don't have any evidence as to why we couldn't click on that when we could click on the rest of the links on the page and find the summary sheets, but without the hazard information. So we'll leave that open to interpretation. It's the people that bought the material, that knew what they were buying, are more culpable.
Okay, why aren't they being dragged away in cuffs? I mean, everything. This is just, I mean, I don't understand how these people get such special treatment just because they're a corporation. And it's here too. It's everywhere. Corporations should have less rights than the people. I'm so sick of this.
I sense your anger, Tim. And on Wednesday night, I tweeted, these people should not be given an opportunity to address the issue. They should be in fucking handcuffs.
Exactly.
What do you guys call it when you're under? Do you call it under oath when you get receive a caution and you're arrested by the police?
No, under
arrest.
oath. Under arrest.
And they read you your rights, your Miranda rights. It's probably the same thing when they say you have the right to remain silent. Whatever you do or say can be held against you in a court of law.
So yeah, they shouldn't be allowed to give. If you a legal commentator, I forgot to mention this earlier, and sorry for going back to it. But the building code and guidelines, for one, are a safe minimum. Now, every company that's involved in this building has come out and stated that we built everything legally. But when there's a risk or there's an effectual situation that could arise, just because you built things legally doesn't necessarily protect you in the court of law. Have you mitigated all the risk? Now, looking at that material safety data sheet, they've done fuck all to mitigate any risk of turning that building into a fireball. So whether they built to the code and it was legal or not, they didn't mitigate any risks according to that safety data sheet. Now, I'm going to keep posting that safety data sheet, and I've got it cached offline in case everyone fucking forgets exactly what material set that building alight. Now, the contractors themselves, they'll have to answer for what they've done. So yeah, I don't know the selling or the sales influence of Alcoa of its products to building companies. If it's banned in the United States, they have to find a market somewhere for their product. Why it wasn't removed, I don't know. Why you need flammable cladding? Any ideas, anyone? Does anyone know why you need a building material that goes up in flames?
Because it saves you 5,000 pounds, and you're a cheap, greedy bastard that puts money above people's lives, evidently. From what we talked about earlier, that's what I gathered.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. It's just sickening. I don't know. Why is Alcoa selling a flammable building product that's carcinogenic and affects reproductive organs? It's Monsanto all over again, isn't it? Just in a different product.
Yep. And you're going to find that with most of the corporations within at least the United States. Same thing. DuPont, Monsanto still does it. All of them.
Yep.
Man, when you said Philandro Castile got the pig got off, that's it. I just went into a anger mode. I'm pissed about everything we're talking about. So I apologize, you guys, if I'm yelling. But
no, you're doing good, and don't worry. You should be pissed. I'm pissed. We should all be pissed. This should not be normalized. This should not be expected. Although it is expected. I know, because we know how fucked our justice system is, and we've sat through this, and I've been sitting through watching these fucking cops get acquitted for over 15 years since I started this fucking academic shit.
Yeah,
and it was something that I enjoy. Not that I enjoy. It was something that I got involved with research and trying to change the system. And there's nothing that angers me more. I don't think anything. Each case. It's just another stab in the heart. It's just less and less hope every time. And I understand why people don't have hope anymore.
I mean, then you go to the UK, which is even better than here, and they're going through it. It's like, why do all these countries have these corporations with such massive power? and let rich people who don't give a fuck be able to make laws and run things that hurt everybody else. That should just be like a no-no. Like, it should not be allowed in any way, shape, or form anywhere.
Profit over people. That's why. That's what they care about.
That should be illegal internationally. You know, it's ridiculous.
Oh, I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you.
People should be in prison or in some cases just taken off this earth. But no, they're profiting still, and they're all immune, and it's ridiculous. Man, it's so horrible. We have to do something.
It's all about the NIMBY syndrome. There's just not enough NIMBY being felt in the United States.
What is NIMBY, Glenn? I'm stupid.
Not in
backyard.
Yeah.
What?
Not in my backyard.
Oh, okay.
Not my problem. Until it affects somebody individually, they don't give a shit. Specifically among the dominant group.
Yeah, it's, as I tried to highlight earlier, is that there's a number of us. We kind of like look to the future, and we kind of have an understanding and awareness of our surroundings. You know what? That's not going to work. You know what? That's going to kill people. It's probably best not to do that. But there's others out there that think they're because their ego and their alpha A fucking testosterone overrule you. It's like being progressive. Being progressive is, you're now a hard left in the UK. If you're looking out for your children's future, you're hard left according to certain aspects of the media. Now, I mentioned this, I can't recall, quite recently, but there's a centre ground, you know, where you can look to the future, everyone can prosper, and you can actually protect the environment and do everything you need to. Sustainability. It's like a fucking swear word in America at the moment. It's like. Do you know what? I think the only way Trump's going to be happy is if he detonates or launches America directly into the face of the sun.
Seems that way, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. I think that's the only thing that will stop him.
And you know what? The other people are just stupid. From the people who like Trump, and you know, the people who support the police and all the police killings. Philandro Castile didn't have a chance for this cop to be convicted because he was a black man. But in the same token, you had out here in California, you had Kelly Thomas, who was white and the son of a sheriff, and those cops got off as well. So the white people need to think it is in their own backyard, maybe just not as predominant right now. But if they can get off and they are kill a white son of a police officer, one of their own, then you better believe that you're next.
I hear this argument all the time. I hear people whenever I bring up Black Lives Matter and I bring up the protests, I hear, well, more white people are killed than black people. And then I give them percentages and explain the difference. But I say that shouldn't even matter because you don't see white people getting angry about it. You don't have that solidarity, that community feeling within it because we've been so trained to focus only on our fucking selves, even more so than our families anymore, our fucking selves, to where, yeah, you know what? White people should be mad, but they're not. Why not?
Because it's not in their own backyard, and that shows how rare it is. You see unarmed white people getting shot down by the police for reaching for an ID or something.
It is very rare that it's unarmed. You're absolutely right there.
Exactly, and so it doesn't affect them, and it's not going to affect them in their own world until it does. But then you notice as soon as one of these white people gets killed who is unarmed or is a total injustice or tragedy, now they're on the other side with the other black mothers and Latino mothers saying, yeah, now let's do this. You know, but people just need to just start at the beginning. Like, we're all in this together. We're all people. Damn your race, damn your color. You know what I mean? Enjoy your culture. Be you. I'll be me. He be him. Everybody do your thing. Let's all get along and just fight the power that's oppressing all of us together. Just because you're oppressed a little bit less than this group or that group doesn't mean you don't fight for their rights equally.
But that's how
Because one
divide
day you
and
might
conquer
be
works.
the oppressed, and don't you want those same groups to fight with you?
Absolutely. But that's how divide and conquers works. They've been socialized. We've been brainwashed. We've been using propaganda into this us versus them mentality where even the poorest white man oftentimes will just think that he's even 10 times better than the richest black man. And that is the history of the United States right there.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I
If
never
you
thought
keep
about
us
it.
angry and you keep us fighting one another, then every time something that happens like we're seeing in London right now occurs, and it happens, things like that happen here all the time, not that big of course, but every time a corporation gets away with this, then we completely accept profit over people. We don't care about the people because we're too busy fighting one another. Now we're too busy fighting Republican, Democrat, and black and white, and religion versus that, and even gender. If you keep us fighting, we won't come together. Karl Marx stated it 1847. It was that simple. Workers of the world unite. You have nothing to lose but your chains. Oh, and now I'm quoting fucking Marx. Sorry. Sociologist came out.
You've seen his head.
I have seen his head. It was the most exciting part. His head's in Britain.
Highgate Cemetery. We went to see Mark's head.
It's quite creepy. It was a bit creepy. Exciting.
It was massive.
It is massive.
Freaked me the void out.
Wow. So yeah, we got about maybe 8 more minutes left. Is there anything you guys want to make sure you guys say or go over before we go?
And just a shout out. We've got Aaron's Law on the show Sunday. Just was chatting to them on. I'm in a private chat with a load of people. There's an announcement coming out about the internet party, which I'm not in a position to mention at the moment. But the internet party is Kim.com's party. I don't know if you guys recall. But there'll be an announcement coming out soon. But your Aaron's Law's on your show as well, Tim. I understand.
Yeah, they did one on the People's Voice on their own and submitted it just to be released, and then I interviewed them. I'm glad somebody's standing up and doing that, and they're gaining momentum and getting a following for it, because it's really important. We need to make sure that we just need to keep the internet as free as possible in every way, shape, and form as possible.
I know for a fact, Larry Love, who is our government, is pretty much rolling over and doing all it can to allow the extradition of Larry Love, who undertook certain endeavours allegedly against the United States government as part of Op Last Resort, which was the campaign, the Internet Activist campaign for the harsh treatment by the Department of Justice on Aaron Schwartz. So I'm looking forward to this conversation on Sunday. We've been following it for a while.
Yeah, and Glen's doing a big, huge show, as he said earlier. You want to go back over that for the people who might not have been here earlier, Glen?
That will be about specifically Aaron's Law. This will be the 4th time it's coming to the floor of the U.S. Congress, this time in the Senate. We're going to talk about Aaron's Law specifically and what changes it would involve to CFAA. And we'll be talking about a few case studies of CFAA prosecution, shall we say.
I've got some breaking news, people. Chelsea and Kensington council offices, armed police are on the scene. They're holding back at the moment, but effectively things are kicking off outside the council offices. So if you want to follow my Twitter, which is T0P_100. I'm going to go and search for some live streams and find out what's going on.
Cool. You predicted that before the show we were talking, and you said there was going to be some stuff jump off out there.
I predicted this yesterday. Me and Gal have been right ever since we started investigating this. Everything we've called out has come to fruition. As I mentioned, we knew the material that was used on the building Wednesday night. I predicted that ISIS actually released a statement to its followers that the vulnerabilities of these buildings on the Thursday, after I stated on the Wednesday that this was a possibility that they could take advantage of the vulnerabilities of these buildings. And pretty much everything we've called it before it's come to fruition, and it's terrifying that we've been correct.
You guys are like a mini Psychic Friends network.
I wouldn't say psychic necessarily
I was
as
just being sarcastic.
Oh no, I'm just saying though. I've been studying this kind of crime for over a decade. I mean, it's just the same thing happens over and over and over again, and the same people are the victims over and over and over again. We had something similar in the United States, many things actually, but like some case studies of very similar situations in Hamlet, North Carolina is one that comes to mind, where something very similar happened, just much smaller, where the people were locked inside because they were stealing chicken nuggets, and they were very low paid, and the OSHA knew that they were being locked inside and didn't change it, and they still, fire starts, 23 people killed, 56 injured. These are cases that have been around forever, but they've really just been kind of being connected over the last 2 or 3 decades within at least the academic world. And what's actually being done about it is nothing. Like, nothing's being done. The regulations that were even put on after that case, or ValueJet, or any of the other cases, are being taken away right now. And so you have this whole, let's get rid of all these regulations. Those regulations were to keep workers safe. Those regulations are to keep people in their buildings safe. I
just posted what you posted to me, Gary, the Independent. Our government's policy is to reduce red tape.
Yeah, and we have the same thing right now with Trump. He wants to get rid of all these regulations. These regulations, not all of them, of course. There are, we have bureaucratic bullshit. I understand that. But many of the regulations they're getting rid of, like, dumping coal waste into streams, things like that, that's for people's health.
Yeah.
But now it's gone.
Sheesh.
And one last time, I'm posting the material safety data sheet for Reno Bond that people saw fit to put on human habitation. Just remember that.
And that's on Twitter.
I've just posted it to the chat.
So he's probably posting it everywhere. Just look everywhere. It'll be there.
I see it on the chat now. Okay. I had to scroll down. I'm an idiot.
I want to bring up that July 12th is the international day that everybody's going to try to raise awareness about net neutrality. Keep reminding people about that. You're going to see a lot of websites go dark, like we saw a couple years ago. A lot more corporations actually are in on this now, and I saw Amazon signed up this week, and some other big corporations signed up to be in, which is good, because the more people that see it, the more that we might actually have something different occur. But that's a whole other show. July 12th.
We'll promote that every week until it happens, and as it comes closer. That's very important. So that's about it for today's show. Thank everybody who listened and joined in on the chat. I know I appreciate it, as well as you guys.
Thanks for having us, man.
Yes, thank you.
It's our show. All right, guys.
This is true. We're all hosts now.
Yeah, like you keep saying, thanks for having me. You're the host. You could do the show without me if you wanted. And you will eventually. I won't be on all of them. I know I'm going to have things to do certain Fridays in the future. So, it's all of our show. Every one of the now 8 people that'll be rotating in and out throughout the various weeks. So yeah, we're all equals in this. It's not just my show, and I don't have any more or less say than anybody else. Just that's for the audience to know
Top
too.
has a hard time understanding that concept.
Well, Top
because
has
he
more.
has a show.
Top
He
has
has
more
a show.
say. Top has more say than anybody else on everything. But other than Top, we're all even.
Yes.
I couldn't put it better myself.
On that note, we're out. Thanks for listening again, everybody.